This is the BMW i8 plug-in hybrid, and while it looks like something from the year 2050, it's actually been on sale since 2014. But this i8 is a little bit different. Because it's the new Roadster version, now this roof drops down in a matter of seconds, and it drops down behind the front seats, right where the rear seats would be in the coupe. The Roadster's arrival also marks a bit of an update for the i8 range. It's still powered by a 1.5 litre 3-cylinder engine, but the batteries that allow this to be a plug-in hybrid supercar now give 33 miles of electric range, instead of 22 back in 2014.
Quite why it's taken BMW 4 years to actually build it, nobody really knows, but now it's here. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I think it looks better than the coupe. Now, the things that have been carried over from the coupe are these stunning flying buttresses. I mean, it's such a design feature of the car. And of course, the scalloped out rear lights. There's nothing else that looks like this on the road. Another thing that remains, obviously, is where you charge it up, is over on the front wing. Now, the things that have changed, well, this new rear deck. Obviously, because it's a convertible, you need somewhere for the roof to be stored. There's also a thin sheet of glass that can act as a wind deflector. Now, one thing that has remained, and I'm so glad BMW have kept it, are these doors, because, I mean, look at it. Absolutely stunning, and despite the fact it's a convertible now, it hinges on the windscreen pillar, so it allows it to open like that, and it's such a jaw-dropping feature. One other thing that is new though, well, you can't see it today because it's daylight obviously, but there are new puddle lamps, and they shine down onto the ground showing the i8 logo. Now, getting in, just like the coupe, there's a knack to it. Not quite sure what that knack is, but if you owned one of these, you'd work out how to get in and out of this car as elegantly as possible. Now, close the door, and it's a very comfortable interior. You sit nice and low. It's very easy to get a great driving position. Now, the changes to the Roadster, well, there's the new BMW iDrive system. It's the latest interface. It looks a lot better than before, and it's also a touchscreen as well. But don't worry, you can still use the rotary dial down here, which I have to say, I find myself using that all the time. It's a lot easier. That's a bit of a stretch to operate the screen. Now, the Roadster also comes as standard with a head-up display, which is very nice, adds to the whole techie feeling. Now, under this cubby here, there's the control for the roof. Up here, there's the control for the rear windscreen as well. Now, with the coupe becoming a Roadster, it means that we've lost the two back seats. There is a large shelf there, which you can store things on, but of course you can't store people there anymore, or children in the coupe, because the back seats are absolutely minuscule. Now, elsewhere, well, we've still got the same dashboard design. It's starting to feel its age a little bit now, especially with all the controls they've carried over from more humdrum models, and it's such a sharp contrast to the exterior of this car. It just feels a little bit dated. Now, we've also got the coupe's inherent storage problems. I mean, there's precious few cubbies in here. Now, under here, there is a space to store your mobile phone. The glove box is pretty small as well. And, well, the door bins, there aren't any, so I can't show you the car buyer large water bottle test. Shock of horrors. Now, under here, there's a tiny little cubby. I mean, it's absolutely minuscule, but there's a little USB charging port there as well. It's a bit of a clue as to what this cubby is for. Well, it's for the display key. Now, it's a bit of nifty tech, this. I really like it, but it's notorious for having a rubbish battery life. So you find yourself having to plug it in every single time you get in the car. The problem is, there's only one USB charging port. So if you want to charge your phone up, you can't. You know, it's a good thing there's a parcel shelf down there, because when you lift up the boot lid, you discover there's no boot whatsoever. I mean, that's largely due to well, it's not largely, it's totally due to the fact the engine is positioned there. So if you are going to take this car away for a weekend break, make sure you pack small. Now the Roadster is still made in the same way as the Coupe, so the body is made from carbon reinforced plastic and there's lots of aluminium bits and pieces as well. And that means this car is very, very light, and consequently it means you don't have to have a massive great big engine powering this thing. And you definitely don't get a massive engine in the i8 Roadster, because behind my ears is a 1.5 litre 3-cylinder petrol engine taken from the Mini Cooper. Now that engine has been tuned to develop 228 brake horsepower, and there's also an electric motor in the front end of this car, and that develops 141 brake horsepower. Now connecting the motor and the engine are the batteries, and they are positioned under here, running down the spine of the car. It's all very clever stuff. Now, like the i3, the i8 is effectively a range-extending electric car. Now, what I mean by that is that it's predominantly an electric car. When you start up and you drive away, the electric motor is driving the car. Now, when you want more power, the petrol engine kicks in and works with the electric motor to give you that extra power. Now, if you're driving along and you suddenly think to yourself, you don't actually want to be running around the electricity all the time, you want to save it for a later date, possibly when you're entering the city, you can go into the vehicle settings part of the menu, and you can press the battery hold function, so it holds the electricity so you can use it at another time. You can also charge the i8 on the move. Now you do that by kicking the lever over into sport, the petrol engine fires into life, and the petrol engine is now charging up the batteries. But when you put it into sport, you also get a sportier driving experience. There's more noise. Some of it is artificial, some of it is actually real. The steering gets a little bit heavier and the throttle gets just a little bit crisper.
Because there's such a big electric range, it's entirely possible you could do your morning commute entirely on electricity, charged up at work, and then drive home on electric too, meaning the 141 mpg figure BMW quotes being entirely possible. However, if you don't stick to this regime, you could get 33 mpg, like we're getting here.
Now the i8 Roadster never really feels that sporty to drive, and that's largely due to the electric motor powering the front wheels and the engine powering the back wheels. It never really feels that agile. Another reason why it doesn't really feel that sporty to drive are the tyres. Now, to make this as environmentally friendly as possible and to reduce friction and drag, BMW fitted this car with really thin, narrow tyres. And it means when you push this thing into a corner, you just get loads and loads of understeer. It's not ideal for a sports car, I can tell you. Now, the steering isn't fantastic either. It definitely isn't the crispest in the business, I can tell you. Now, the Porsche 911 and the Mercedes-AMG GT Roadster have all got much more communicative steering. But to be fair to the BMW, when you realise what's going on and all the things it's doing and how state-of-the-art it is, the steering is actually pretty good.
It's still a stiff car as the i8, even more so with the Roadster, but the ride is never uncomfortable. And while the Roadster does weigh an extra 60 kilograms over the Coupe, you can never feel it. And it doesn't wobble around like most convertibles.
Bad things? Well, I don't particularly like the visibility, the forward visibility of this car. The A-pillars are very thick and they're very steeply raked as well. So when you've got the roof on and you're driving this thing around the city, you get quite a large blind spot there. Another thing I don't like are to do with the windows. Now, when I wind this window down, can you see what's wrong? It doesn't go all the way down, does it? So it means that when you want to put your arm there, you want to rest it, look all loose and sort of cool, you can't because the glass is there. It's also not that practical. I mean, if you're going into a multi-storey car park, for instance, and you want to lean out and grab the ticket, it means that you've got to lean over this piece of glass here. It gets really annoying. Now, another thing to do with glass is that wind deflector there. Now, when you're driving this thing along at 70 miles an hour, the wind noise in here is absolutely extreme. It means that if you're carrying a passenger, you can't really have a normal conversation with them. You end up shouting quite a lot just so they can hear what you're saying. Now, BMW says you can cure this by raising the piece of glass, but really, in my experience of this, it makes it even worse. So what you tend to do is have the glass down, and that means the wind is just rushing through. It doesn't really seem that well thought out.
The Roadster is £12,000 more than the coupe, and while that sounds a lot, I think it's worth it. It adds another layer of glamour to this already high-tech, futuristic-looking car. Yes, the interior is starting to feel its age, but there's nothing quite like the i8 Roadster on the road, and it's a truly special car. If you like this video, make sure you watch my Audi R8 Spider review and our convertibles playlist. Give this video a thumbs up and press the Car Buy logo to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.